Landmark legislation is being debated in Parliament, which will open this to the scrutiny of the public, the affairs of the agencies of government. The Freedom of Information Bill, forecast as one of the government's agenda items during this electoral term, is now before Parliament, placing the Bahamas in the company of nearly 100 countries where government information is by law accessible to the public, and notably to journalists seeking a side of the story that they haven't had free access to in the past. Janaea Noel Ferguson has more.
A monumental piece of legislation that will trigger the greatest public reform to date in the country. That's the view of Desmond Bannister, MP for Carmichael and Minister of Education, who says under the Freedom of Information Act, every government ministry will have a legal obligation to publish its functions.
Just as private sector companies are required to report to their shareholders, so too, sir, public sector leaders will be required to report to their stakeholders, the Bahamian public.
Despite this massive turnaround for public disclosure, Bannister explained that some information remain exempt for safety reasons.
Could negatively impact law enforcement by endangering life or safety, or could compromise investigations or prosecutions, or prejudice investigation procedures.
Leading off debate for the opposition was MP for Fox Hill Fred Mitchell, who said that the bill requires some tweaking. He believes that a giant leap toward real freedom of information would be if cabinet meetings, among other things, are also made public.
My colleagues probably don't even agree with me on this, but I even believe we ought to have open cabinet meetings. Don't see the reason why we can't.
MP for Killarney Dr. Hubert Minnis and MP for Elizabeth Ryan Pinder also weighed in on the bill.
The original Bahama contract, when this contract was signed with some degree of secrecy, with this Freedom of Information Bill, Mr. Speaker, those information would be available for the people.
This legislation, in my opinion, does not go far enough in its protections. It just provides for the legal protection for whistleblowers. The legislation, Mr. Speaker, should set forth penalties and outline what the protection mechanisms are.
The Freedom of Information Act is expected to open up accountability on all government levels. Janaea Noel Ferguson, ZNS News.
Moving for the second reading of the bill was Member of Parliament for Marathon and Minister for the Environment, Dr. Earl Deveaux. While supporting the Freedom of Information Act, Minister Deveaux sent out a warning to social media users of platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. He said while the bill will not deny this group access nor curtail bad conduct, users ought to be more responsible.
So nurturing a culture of freedom of information, we must guard against secrecy, obfuscation, and nurture a culture where the public has a right to know. This bill seeks to do so. Mr. Speaker, sometimes it's easy to believe that we Bahamians are in a war between ourselves, but we're not. We are in a struggle to provide good government and pursue inclusive development with limited resources in a highly competitive world. However, there are some who prefer to keep us at war with ourselves because it suits their purposes. But this is only a sham, a deception at sustaining support under false pretenses.
Highlighting the WikiLeaks saga and its impact on bilateral relations, Minister Deveaux says talking about a conspiracy is one thing, but detailing the facts are quite another. And as far back as backroom deals and secret conspiracies are concerned, this bill will advance more transparency.
In this deceitful worldview, almost everything is turned into a sinister conspiracy concocted in a back room for the benefit of a few powerful special interests to the detriment of the many. One of the best ways to open up a closed-door process is to legislate for that to happen. This Freedom of Information law has the potential to dispel fears about secret deals, cronyism, personal favors, preferential contracts, and other perversions of the public interest for private gain.